Welcome back to Copa America. Oh, let me swap those names around. That was incorrect. Now it's fixed. Copa America Season 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the qualifier number 2. If you're joining us here in Twitch chat live, type ! brackets in chat for a link to see the other players playing tonight. And how far through we are. Spotting here in the top right corner of the map, though, the blue Terran player, Dashiz. From Infinity Esports, sorry. Dashiznit. His opponent at the top left from Shot Esports. We saw one of these guys last night. We see another one now. It is the red Protoss, Gosudark. And a really dirty part of me hopes he proxies a Nexus. Actually, it's kind of cool. Like I mentioned before, we've got a Reddit thread going on in lieu of a Team Liquid listing at the moment, and we've had a lot of people chiming in with the conversation over there, which is really cool. And I've actually been reading that between games during the commercial breaks and during the downtime. And one of the interesting things, someone did link how to hold off a planetary Nexus, or not sorry, just a proxy Nexus, I guess what everyone would call it, with a photon overcharge, as Pult had it happen to him, and they linked a YouTube video over there. So if you saw the Game versus Hawk and you're like, how do you stop that? Go take a look at that video. I saw it live on his channel when it did happen. I was all giddy and happy that Pult is so good at StarCraft2. But we'll see how good these guys are in comparison. Of course, Gosudark is certainly no Hawk, and Dashiz is no Pult by any means. But that being said, we do still have Grandmasters in play at the moment, so this won't be a sloppy game, I don't think. We'll see how both of these players decide to handle it. Again, I'm not sure Dashiz has had any opportunity to even look at ways to try and abuse, I guess you could call it, the new Hellbat changes. Again, it's so fresh, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of excited and hoping something happens that catches someone else off guard. But for the most part, Terrans only really got one way to play the matchup. Again, a lot of this boils down to quite heavily the just quite heavily around the bio play. There's no way to play a mech out. There are some few players who can make it work, and there's some players who can make cheese work even better. We've seen some 3-port Banshees, we've seen some proxy battlecruisers in the past on pro levels that do actually catch Protoss players off guard, but for the most part, as a Terran player, you're stuck to playing Standard. And Standard is as Standard does. We got the Reaper coming out here in just a moment's time. It will pick off this probe, which is putting a pylon down, which I think is intended to block the reactor, but as we see, he just lifts up and moves. This is like when you see a Protoss player pylon block the natural base, you're just kind of like, what? I'm Terran, bro. How's it going? Yeah, so he canceled the pylon. I think it was a bit of an annoyance, but it really didn't cost him any time. But the Mothership Core is starting to move out a little bit, and early on, Reapers can't really stop this. There's usually not enough Marines. You know, we had just finished going over the numbers for stopping Oracles. You do need 3 Marines while micro to deal with a Mothership Core. So, I mean, there's a lot of precision that comes to the early game for Terran. You know, it's weird. You got on one side of the scale the Protoss, right? Their units are all expensive. They're incredibly strong. Great. On the other side, you got Zerg. Their units are all very cheap. They're very expendable. They're meant to be used fast and loose. Terran's kind of this awkward spot in the middle where their units are really, I don't know, all around malleable, but they're not very strong, and they're not exactly super cheap either. So, I mean, Marines are fantastic, but 2 at a time is not going to deal with the Mothership Core. If he engages too early, he's going to lose them. Let's not forget, there's the Stalker to deal with underneath this, and a small little poke like this isn't even that aggressive of an all-in or anything like that. This is something that's going to kill the SCV building the command center. It might kill some Marines in the main, but we're going to have 3 barracks built, so we should be okay to hold against this without losing the game. 5 SCVs, by the way, guys, kind of that magic number when you don't know what's going on. 5's enough that you don't pull your economy into, like, oblivion, but it's also enough that it can actually deal with what's on the front lines. But a bunker's coming down, and the Reaper, it's really not scouted a whole lot. He got into the base once, got in and got out. He needs to check and confirm this Nexus is coming down, though, because there's a very significant difference between 2 gases and a 1 base all-in to an expansion. So we do see the Reaper rallied around. He sees the Protoss forces, though, and is a little bit timid. Doesn't want to dive in right now. But 6 to 7 minutes. Terran players who are bad at StarCraft2, take notes right now. 6 to 7 minutes is when you really need to get in there with the Reaper, because you're going to confirm one of 3 things. 1, either the Nexus is down, because it will be either on the way by now or not started in the slightest. If you see no Nexus, then you go to the main, and you look very quickly for a Twilight Council, and if your Reaper gets killed, you almost have to scan to confirm the Twilight Council or not. You can play blindly versus a Stargate, no problem. Whether it's proxy or otherwise, you should have production similar to what we see out of Dashiz, and you'll have 6 Marines in a mineral line. You'll have 6 Marines in the natural, you'll have 6 Marines in the main, and Oracles will never end your life. They might pick off an SCV or two, maybe a Marine, but they should never be the end of the game. So, I mean, for Dashiz right now, he's not got the best scouting going on, but he sees the Nexus, which is nice. So he knows this isn't going to be some really fast all-in, not one base blink or anything quite so silly. But as he gets to the main, there's not a whole lot more for him to scout at the moment. He will see the Robo. No, he actually doesn't see the Robo. A little unfortunate there. But again, prediction kind of tells, like, if there's a natural base down, chances are with a Robo, this is going to be for faster Colossus. Not because of the player, not because Gosudark sees what Dashiz is doing, but that's just the standard for the game right now. What we do see is also kind of standard coming out of Dashiz, going for a little bit of an early poke. Now, he is pretty annoyingly supply blocked. This does happen to Terran players typically around this timing, but one of the big things with this poke, it's not meant to really kill her in the game, but you want it at the very least, bare minimum. Like, just burn the overcharge and get out of there. Don't lose a lot of Marines to this. The idea is that typically a Protoss player is not going to have a whole lot of production because they're speeding up that tech. They're trying to get the Colossus out faster, right? But, oh, what's the FPS playing up there? Hey guys, got 80 FPS, what's up? Oops, hide that. But yeah, this is a force that can kill what's here. The sentries are not going to have enough to fully force field this off, but he might try and force field him into the overcharge, which is another but he does bait it out, loses 1 Marine, and disengages. Now, to explain why this is so important is because later on, the follow-up is you want to do double drops. You want to try and elevator something to the main while you push the natural, and the Mothership Core cannot overcharge 2 bases with only 100 energy. So, in this regard, Dashiz is pretty good. But on Gosudark's side of things, guys, he's got the Colossus coming out. Now, granted, this isn't going to have extended thermal lance, but there's no Marauders here for it to worry about. Colossus just doesn't give a good gosh darn about Marines. The only thing the Colossus is going to be afraid of in the early game are Marauders stemming forward, because without extended thermal lance, they have the same range, and Marauders will tear a Colossus to pieces. I think Gosudark's got a pretty good hold, though. I mean, I like what Dashiz has done, but as we see, as he brute forces his way in here, it's not hitting at that perfect timing. Nexus might get focused down, though. This could be a great choice if he can actually snipe this off and disengage. The Colossus is only just popping out, and even if the probes are pulled, he might not have the DPS for this. Dashiz is actually going to get the natural base, and this makes it all worthwhile. If he had thrown away those Marines and the Marauders, got stuck in those force fields, and lost them to the Colossus without doing any damage, that would have been just straight up devastating. But a player like Gosudark, he needs that economy. He can't really afford to produce a ton of Colossi right now. He can't throw down the additional 4 gateways so you have that magic number of 7. No, he's stuck on 1 base at the moment, and he doesn't have any money coming for him. Back at home, we got a couple bunkers coming down, I think kind of in a paranoid fashion. To explain why this is happening, basically you kill a Nexus, sometimes that prompts a player to go for the all-in. He's like, alright, you know what, screw it. Cards on the table, let's go. The gloves are off. But that's not the case here for Gosudark. He's just kind of building up for the time being. Colossus count is not too crazy, but you know, this is why the game has shifted a lot. Protoss players, I mean, and again, like, this isn't at all speaking about balance or imbalance, guys, but the bottom line is Colossus counter bios so effectively that you can kind of just sit back. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be pulling off Warp Prism drops or Warp-ins or anything like that. You can sit there until you got about 3 Colossus, so you got to extend the thermal lance, and then you can look at getting aggressive. Now, Colossus are incredibly susceptible the same way siege tanks are, where they've got a pretty fast rate of fire, granted, I'll give that to them, but they've kind of got dumb firing mode, if you want to call it that. Like, they just watch the AI of a Colossus, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you pull SCVs, and this is why SCV pulls have become so popular, they waste so much time on the wrong units that the Marauders and Marines get in range. They chew through the Zealots, and the SCVs buffer for just that little bit enough. And that's why you're seeing a lot of pros pull the SCVs, or quote-unquote call the boys, as it were. Stemming to the probe line here, he's not going to be able to do a whole lot of damage, but what's worth noting is there's only 2 Stalkers, so he can actually pick up with this and get out of here. Although Gosudark did do a really nice split. I gotta give him big props on this. Oftentimes, you'll see a Protoss player not quite aware of like whether they've pulled too much, too little. Maybe they just A-move their whole army back to the main, and that exposes the natural. But he left a Colossus here, he left sentries here. So this could have been a bad attack if there was a secondary follow-up, sort of like the 1-2 punch out of Dashiz. But our Terran player, he was just going for harass. That wasn't like a game-ending move. That wasn't meant to be something too detrimental. One really important thing, too, for Gosudark is the fact that he's still got this probe up and alive on this side of the map. Or not probe, sorry, the observer. Oftentimes, it's hard to do this because Terran players are getting better and better at just sniping these off. This probe, or why do you play a probe? This probing observer, there you go. It sees everything coming out of the base. He sees the SCVs being pulled, but it's not for an attack. It's just for a base transfer. Although, I gotta be honest, this looks kind of scary. If the army kept moving with it, he may have been a little bit afraid. But 4 Vikings at a time... The production is where it needs to be for Dashiz. The only criticism I would have right now is get your barracks production up. But even then, he's just finished them. So, while the Sim City in the main looks absolutely messy and horrible, it's what it needs to be. As far as his actual army composition goes, he's got a pretty nice setup to deal with what Gosudark has. Let's not forget these two medevacs are going to constantly be a threat to drop over and over and over again. And while there is going to be energy for overcharges, you know, the overcharge is meant as a defensive tool in the early game. It can be pretty good in the late game as well, but you can't rely on it as much as you do. Like that first overcharge we saw for the Nexus that drove everything back, like the idea behind that is just like, yeah, it keeps low amounts of bio back. But if you're dropping 3 medevacs at a time and attacking the base with your other 80 supply, that overcharge is not going to do anything. Now, a little bit unfortunate for Dashiz is Gosudark, again, with this Observer, very important, sees the entire army value. He sees exactly what's coming, where it's going, and he knows that his natural base is soon to be under attack. The scan certainly gives us away as well. There's another Observer over here, and one Marine making sure that there's no third base. So I think Dashiz is feeling pretty comfortable right now. He's a whole base up over his opponent. His production's looking great. The only thing he doesn't really have going for him is upgrades. Now, granted, upgrades are on the way, but they're not here yet. So still fighting with 1-1. Even though his opponent still has 1-1, it's not even really technically equal. Because again, don't forget, guys, Protoss units are way more expensive because they're that much stronger innately. Ooh, you know what's really critical here for Gosudark, and this is going to be a bit of a problem. His stalker count is really low. He doesn't have blink. Usually you have a lot of stalkers just going to blink forward underneath the Vikings and pick them off one at a time. You sort of, you know, shift A-click each of them to make sure that they go down fast enough that the Colossus don't take any real damage. For Gosudark, though, he's focused so heavily on Zealots, Charge, and Sentries. He doesn't have the stalker count to do that. 5 stalkers will not an army make, and these Vikings should go somewhat unhindered. If Dashiz had scanned that with his army supply lead right now, we would certainly have seen him push in for the attack, but a little unaware of what was going on. Gosudark still split between 2 bases. Granted, this is a good move because he doesn't know if drops are coming or not, despite his awesome observer coverage. But the Viking count is way too high, and I think he's waiting for his 2-2 to time out for this attack. What are the bunkers? What? What? There are bunkers coming down. I have not seen this before. This is kind of an interesting move. We'll see if it comes to effect or not. But as we see the first volley for the Vikings, going to almost take it on the Colossus. The Marauders stand right underneath us, and the Zealots are charging to the front lines, but the Vikings just need to sit there because the Stalkers are not numerous enough to fight these. As the Zealots get weeded out, the Marauders will then move forward. There's only 2 Colossus remaining. 2 Colossus are nothing, but without the medevacs to heal this army, overstimmed as it is, he has to disengage. The bunkers were a really weird choice. I really don't know what this was about. But it's this one Colossus. You know what? This bunker just A-moves distracted the Colossus. It's worth noting, like, no jokes aside there, because Gosudark had A-moved, attack moved, he had attacked the closest thing to him, so one of his Colossus had actually been segmented off, and if he continued to chase for even another 5 seconds, Dashiz may have recognized this, utilized it, turned around and killed the 1 Colossus remaining. But still producing 3 Vikings at a time, he's repairing and healing up his low units. Dashiz is going to be ready for round 2 much sooner, much better than Gosudark will be. Granted, this time though, guys, and this is really important, Gosudark does have a lot of stalkers this time. Downside being, no blink. Now, the Dark Shrine's kind of cute. When behind Dark Shrine, we've heard it before. We'll probably never hear it for the rest of our lives. Curse you, Day 9, for coming up with this rhyme that's so catchy. But what's really critical with Dark Templar is Terran players often get caught with their pants down. Now, there are turrets up in all the bases, granted. That being... well, actually, not in the main. Ooh, that's going to be a big problem. But that being said, he's going to have to keep everything at home to defend. Gosudark can't afford to go for like a stealthy warp-in attack type thing. The units on the ground do need to start cutting a little bit. The Colossus don't have a lot buffering for them at the moment. Once these last couple Colossus go down, yeah, he moves forward with about to stem into us, but that costs him all of the lives of the ground units. Now with the Vikings in the air, he's got to retreat. These medevacs have got to boost out of here. Keeping these alive is priority number 1. Reinforcements are coming across the map en masse, and we have Colossus continue being produced. At this point, Dashiz has to make a very critical decision, and that's whether he stops producing Vikings or not, because what he really needs is more medevacs. Coming on the front lines, so the Marauders going to deal with these stalkers, no problemo. The problem remains with these charge lots getting forward. Now, as these Vikings set up here, they're going to camp the production and catch any new Colossus that come out of this. But that's not going to even matter. The stalker count is dwindling way too fast. The supply for Gosudark is dipping in quickly. GG is going to be called, and Dashiz will take game number 1 in this best of 3. Good game out of our Terran player, but yeah, Gosudark, he had a lot of good reactions that game. I really can't paint him in a poor light. That was just a situation where Dashiz, his third base, just slingshotted ahead. English, right? I know, I'm an English stream. I speak English as my native tongue, and I can barely speak English. But it slingshotted him so far ahead. It was just such a big boost that never got cut out, and it hurt. And we saw the results of that for the rest of that game. So game number 2 coming up here, ideally in a moment's time. We'll hop into that. In the meantime, I'm going to squeeze out another commercial break. A short one, again, I promise you, nothing too long. It'll be longer if there's downtime. Hopefully there's not downtime, though. So see you guys here in a moment's time. Thanks for tuning in. All right, we nope. Hang on, wait. Let's play something cool here. Let's play something also cool because it's Terran versus Protoss. Sorry, I misclicked on the wrong scene and we made the best of it. Anyways, we're back in the lobby. Sorry about that extra downtime, guys. But we are going to Overgrowth for map number 2 between these 2 players. And I actually have to go type this here. 6 for Overgrowth and PVT is 3. There we go. So get the map intro loaded up. If you've just joined us or you are not at all have a clue what's going on, type !! brackets in chat, and you've got to click the little tab that says qualifier number 2. That'll link you to today's qualifier. And you can see what exactly is going on. What I really enjoy, by the way, guys, there's 1,000 people on stream right now, and we don't have any Team Liquid listing. This is so cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I've never, by the way, like, I've been casting StarCraft2 for about 2 years at this point. I've never had any success creating a StarCraft2 event without the StarCraft2 Team Liquid assistance, but we're doing it. We're making it happen. So thanks to those of you who've been taking part on Reddit, upvoting the thread, commenting on it as well. We've got some good discussion going on over there, and without you guys, we wouldn't have the viewers. Bottom line, plain and simple. So as we're hopping into the next lobby here, it's the same series. So Gosudark versus Dashiz Overgrowth for game number 2. The score is 1-0 in the favor of our Terran player. But as you refresh the brackets, look at the qualifier. We're getting pretty close towards the end here. So again, we've had a couple of the matches. You know what? While we're waiting for the game to start, we can actually look at it right here. Look at this beautiful thing. Jim Rising versus Fog on the. Oh wait, is that right? I thought that was yesterday's. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I got the right one on stream. I'm looking at the wrong one in the browser. That makes a little more sense. So we got Jim Rising still trucking through pretty nicely through the brackets, waiting for an opponent to play. Down here on the south, we of course had Huck advance, and the winner of this goes on to fight against Huck. We can see that on the right side of the bracket. Sorry, while I swap that over. But yeah, some pretty cool. I gotta, again, like, Copa America went all out. They got the coolest look at the bracket screens for us. They got the best look at introductions, and you hear the countdown as the game's starting up. So on Overgrowth, we hop into it, and we'll see you guys in just a moment. Alright, welcome back to Copa America Season 2. This is game number 2 in this best of 3. Of course, the series is between Gosudark and Dashiz at PVT, and currently at the moment spawning the bottom left corner of the map. I'm seeing some stutter. Hope nobody's lagging. It is from Shot Esports. As we wait for the logo to spin around. Gosudark. Worth noting, by the way, Gosudark is the Grandmaster of the two, and Dashiz is the Masters player. So again, people trying to comment on skill and whatnot, you are finding yourselves sadly mistaken. Spotting the top right, his opponent, the red Terran player, Dashiz, from Infinity Esports. Anyways, game number 1 did look a little bit one-sided. Gosh, is this... What is going on here? This feels like really stuttery. It's not just you guys if you're seeing that on stream. Maybe it's just me seeing it? Hang on. Do I have any frames dropped? No, I don't have any frames dropped, so I don't know what's going on with the broadcasting software. I don't think it's me. If it is, I'll leave. Hopefully it's not, though. Anyways, game number 1 was a little bit one-sided, but a lot of this came down to a lot of the great decisions that she's made going forward in the game. One of the hardest things to choose to do is deciding when you start cutting units and creating others. You know, when it's safe to stop making Colossus and when it's better to make something else. Or not Colossus, rather Vikings. And we saw him make just the right amount of Vikings in order to take on a pretty good fight. Oh boy, what is happening here? Yeah, I've got no frames dropped, so I mean, like, I'm really paranoid that this is me lagging out, but there's no disconnect to Twitch, there's no disconnect here on OBS, so I don't know what's going on. Is this... Oh geez, I am getting some network spikes. Oh, this may be me. Hang on, guys. I don't have anything open, I don't think. I could cause this? No, I don't have any programs open other than just StarCraft2. We'll mull through this until they ask me to leave, I guess. Anyways, the pylon block did go down again. A bit of a nuisance. What would be causing this, though? How could that happen without me dropping frames on stream? Sorry, guys, pardon me for a second. I just want to make sure this, priority 1 is this doesn't affect the players. Let me quickly check. Yeah, I really don't see anything that could be causing this, so I don't see any complaints from the players. We'll just assume it's just my end for some reason. This is so weird. I've never had this happen before. We'll see what the case may be. Anyways, with the factory on the way in the reactor, we're going to perhaps see some Hellions. I don't know, but for now he's going to definitely need the Marines to deal with the Zealots. We have Gosudark once again being a little bit aggressive with a mothership core coming across the map. And a couple SCVs being pulled into this. Now the problem is, it's not easy to deal with the Zealot in general. You know, we've all played the StarCraft2 Master game. We know you only need 2 Marines to deal with this. Oh man, this is getting like real bad. But it doesn't seem to be affecting these guys. Why is this affecting me? I'm sorry. I'm a very, very, very perfectionist when it comes to StarCraft 2, and I don't know what's causing this. Either way, though, he seems to be unhindered for the time being. Does pull those SCVs, and the Reaper are going to try and hold on to this. The Marines will push back that mothership core, and this initial poke out of Gosudark has triggered a big overreaction out of Dashiz, but rightfully so. If he didn't pull these SCVs, he probably would have taken a lot of damage. But the mothership core gets away, these Stalkers can cut away Marines, because Stalkers have that 1 extra range. The Widowmine does burrow, and yeah, just going to have to back off for the time being. Let me ask you, are you guys getting lag? I know there's some other casters in here. This is so weird. Okay, so maybe it's not me. If they're feeling it too. I don't know. Sorry guys, I'm probably drawing way too much attention to this. We'll just muscle through it. Anyways, the Widowmines are out, and perhaps might end up going for a bit of a drop if you can afford it. Widowmines are never bad to have either. They will one-shot an Oracle, not something that you have go off too often. Oracles are not easy to defend against, of course. But one of the other things we talked a little bit last time is Widowmines are the reason we're seeing a lot of faster Colossus come out of Protoss players. You don't have the grace of going for a lot of Zealots with charge and mixing in storms because Widowmines deal with both of those units so effectively. But Gosudark's got a pretty nice defense set up. I mean, the Mothership Core is able to do an overcharge if necessary. Granted, it's really low on health, and it's a little bit scary, of course. But the idea is this thing shouldn't really be in combat anyways. Keep it alive, pop off the overcharge, drive back and attack. Maybe pop a force field or 2 to lock some units in. Yeah. Back at home, though, there's that drop I was going to talk about before, so waiting to see if he was going to go for it or not. One of the biggest strengths of this drop is oftentimes it will catch people without observers, but the robo facility's been down for quite some time, and there's already an observer hovering and waiting, so when he saw the Widowmites early on the front lines, Gosudark knew exactly what was going to be coming his way. Coming forward here, stuttering with this medevac. I don't know what's happening right now, guys. Like, I don't even know how to share screen region with OBS, but if I could, I'd show you. There's like no frames drops. I don't know what the deal is right now. I feel very awkward about it. But you know, even if you can detect the Widowmines, it's not going to stop them from doing a ton of damage. But that overcharge, Wills, the mothership, or sorry, the freaking dropship dies before it can unload any of its cargo. That hurts a lot. That was the best overcharge and a good focus fire to Gosudark. Now wrapping around the right side. He was hoping to distract the army all the way to the main, but that's not the case. So many Stalkers were left in the natural because who needs to pull them when you kill the medevac before any of its cargo goes out? But as he heads back home, Dashiz, yeah, he's still got a lot of Hellions. He can try and elevate those up to the main. I don't think it'll be very successful, though. A big part of why he was able to hold this off so well is he saw that coming from a mile away. The observer just saw the medevac load up the Hellions. He knows it's heading towards the base, and there's still Stalkers in position to intercept this. Now, the downside is Stalkers don't really deal a ton of damage to Hellions in the first place. So these are going to be kind of, if they can't pick off the medevac right away, they will have a bit of trouble cleaning up the Hellions. And so, of course, there's not another overcharge available, sadly. But warping in another couple stalkers to be safe, he should be able to snipe off this medevac with relative ease. Going to where could possibly have been a blind spot, but yeah, there's enough stalkers here that these won't be that big of a threat, I feel. If you had a force field, this would be the perfect way to lock it down, but he body blocks with the stalkers, tries to at least. A couple probes are going to go down, but you need 3 Hellions to one-shot a probe, and sadly, there's only 2 remaining. The Colossus pops out here as well, and while there's a third base on the way for Dashiz behind this, his harass has been absolutely non-existent. He hasn't gotten any damage for this, and it just hasn't worked out. Back at home, though. Ready for the actual attack is Dashiz. Now, the downside, though, is his forces are incredibly diminished compared to what they normally would be. The supply count is actually lower than that of Gosudark's. Granted, some of that has to do with the worker supply. But, I mean... Or actually, no, wait. Is it? Yeah, actually, same workers. Never mind, sorry. Thought it was crazy there. But the problem is, like, he's sending out another medevac drop. And his drops so far have been lackluster at best. I think this one's probably best suited to just drop a what am I and try and block out the third. Because, again, he's just too well defended, is Gosudark. The downside for Dashiz, too, even though he won that first game, there's not a lot to criticize him for because of how well he handled the first game. But, you know, he never sniped off any of the observers. He had a lot of scouting information just kind of given freely to his opponent. And the medevac is just kind of puttering along here. This is so weird. Like, it should be disconnecting me if I'm lagging, right? I really don't know this situation well enough to, like, judge what's going on. What am I gets a pretty decent hit off there. 6 kills on it, guys. So, those probes definitely felt the burn. There is an observer somewhere, though. He should be floating that over to deal with this. Where's the observer? It's like, this is what I don't get. Like, hang on, watch this. As the starters hit, my camera still pans smoothly. So, like, if I was dropping frames in game, I wouldn't be able to do this. I'm sorry. Again, I said I'd stop drawing attention to this. I'm just gonna leave it as is. Until they ask me to leave or something. We'll assume it's this one game being bugged for some reason. It wouldn't be the first time Battle.net has done weird things in the past, and it won't be the last time either. God, all right. Well, the pylon going down a little bit annoying, but it will get cleaned up. Honestly, just cancel that. I don't even know why it looked complete. Fake Phoenix up here. I was kind of hoping that was a warp person. You know, surprise, surprise. Gosudark does have a Dark Shrine coming down, but Dashiz does not scan it. He scans the natural instead. So, sees the Colossus count, sees the Double Forge, but he doesn't see the Dark Shrine. The Dark Templar, they make it him off guard this time. Look at this. There's no turrets anywhere. Again, as I pan smoothly through lag. WTF. With no turrets down and no turrets available, this is going to be a little bit troublesome. Technically, yes, a Terran player can scan all day, as long as he's got energy for it. But that's the problem. A lot of the time, you're dropping mules on cooldown. You're using all of your energy, and you rarely have like 200 banked up on a command center. Or an orbital command center, rather. Alright guys, no, seriously, I'm looking at chat now. I feel your pain on the lag. It's been a smooth stream, 60 FPS, all these wonderful things leading up to this one single game. We had no problems yesterday. I'm assuming it's the game. For safety's sake, I'll do you guys the favor of restarting my StarCraft after this game to make sure that there should be no issues for whatever we cast next. And I do apologize, because it's not like I can leave the game, restart it, and fix it right away. We kind of just have to deal with it. I don't know what's causing this, because again, like, it's out of my control. Anyways, he cleans up the harass pretty well. Now he's aware there's Dark Templar, which is a very scary thought to consider. The one in the main is actually killing off quite a few SCVs, and Dashiz is feeling the burn. A lot of harass going off that really shouldn't have been able to in the first place. But now the turrets are down, and hopefully that this will not be too detrimental moving forward. Nexus on the way, though, for Gosudark. Gonna take that third. Something that was lacking very heavily from the last game. And the reason this third really matters for a player who goes Colossus tech is it really factors into your production. Right now, granted, there's a lot of gateways down. I actually can't see how many. Hang on one sec. Gotta close that overlay for a sec. Alright, so these are all the gateways right here. There's no hidden ones or anything like that. But there's only one robo as well. So he can't double produce Colossus. He can't exactly warp in 10 stalkers at a time. But as he gets this third base up and running, he'll start being afforded the opportunity to do precisely that. But the Viking count's looking not too bad here. Dashiz As far as upgrades go at the moment, we take a quick look. It is 2-2 for our Protoss player, and that's going to factor in big. We do have 2-2 finishing up here in a second for Dashiz, that if we can time out the attack to pair up with this, that will work out really nicely. Because you do not want to engage a Protoss army that has armor upgrades above you plus Guardian Shields. The Viking count's looking pretty nice. But again, the Blink Stalkers, well, not Blink Stalkers, but just plain Stalker count is way better than it was last game. That was a big part of what played into the snowball effect for Dashiz, that there was nothing to stop the Vikings in game number 1. Game number 2, though, as we see, plenty of freaking Stalkers. Now he's actually going to cut away from the side of this pretty nicely. The Vikings are going unhindered on top of this. Only a couple Stalkers are connecting, so a lot of the Colossus go down. Half the Colossus gone immediately. If he can just keep this bio back, the Vikings will continue shelling away at this. There's only going to be 2 Colossus left. He could stem forward into these if he wants to. He will do precisely that. The Colossus are going to get focused down. Now with only Stalkers remaining, this is not a threat. The Marauder count with these medevacs paired up might go down, but not before he takes almost every single Stalker with him. The last sentry gets picked off, so there's no Force Heals, no Guardian Shields, and an overcharge on this Nexus. It's not even going to stop this army from pushing forward. Well, actually, it might until he reinforces fully and entirely, but still, a really good engagement there out of Dashiz. Couldn't have gone better compared to the fact that, paired with the fact that he had his 2-2 finish up for this. The scary thing to consider, though, he's cut Viking production. This is something I talked about last game, too. You have to decide, like, okay, I killed the Colossus. Do I bank on my opponent not remaking any and just continue producing medevacs, or do I start making the Vikings right away to replace the ones I lost? He has continued to produce Colossus behind this. There is one up and running. There's a second one on the way, and let's not forget there's another overcharge available. So this is not by any means going to be a free win for Dashiz. He's in a good spot right now, but he hasn't locked it down just yet, and he's got no way to really finish the job, so to speak. He's got 3-3 being started up behind us, a Ghost Academy on the way, so EMPs are always good. Quite frankly, you don't have to use an EMP on top of Templar or Immortals or even Archons to be super effective. As long as it drains the shields of the Colossus, the Zealots, it doesn't matter. It's an instant, like, just big damage that goes out on shields. And then, if you guys want to see Vikings be more effective than they already are, watch them shell away at a Colossus that has no shields. That's the difference of 2 volleys versus 1. That's the beauty of the EMP. But of course, still a little ways out for the time being. We do have Archons starting to merge in. I always want to say morph, but like, yeah, merging. The merging is complete. We got a bit of a doom drop into the main. So 3 medevacs fully unloaded are going to take out this 1 cannon for defense. They may snipe off the robo before Colossus comes out. We'll see what his priority is, because he's looking to move in on the right side of the map the second Gosudark moves out of position. But Gosudark being scanned every which way. Actually, the Cybercore being focused down. Kind of interesting move. Actually, he's not focusing anything. He's just kind of A-moving into this. But, oh, he catches the Colossus with a couple Marauder shots. He does finish the job, and he's going to be chased out of here by these Dark Templar. Actually, does land a scan. Kites them down. Moves to the natural. There's nothing here to defend it but a couple of Zealots. Turning around, looks like Gosudark wanted to go for a counterattack. Wanted to maybe try and force a base trade. But I think we all know at this point, you don't base trade a Terran. They're just going to lift up and leave. He should not be able to get the Nexus, sadly. So the attack at the Dashiz was really nice because it picked off the Robo. And it got the Nexus really weak. So maybe another drop later can finish this. But there's too much on the ground right now. There's nothing he can do to compete with this for the time being. But he knows that the Colossus count is on pause. So this gives him the time to start building Vikings again if he wants to. He's taking a gold base while this is going on at the same time. And Dashiz is looking to be in a fantastic spot this game. Gosudark, though, you know, the one biggest thing he's lacking? That extra element. So for a Terran player, when I say that extra element, that's going to be something like your EMP. That's going to be like Widow Mines. For Gosudark, you know, he doesn't have any Templar available. He's not really going for a Warp Prism to do a big counterattack. I mean, honestly, guys, if you warp in 12 Zealots on top of a Terran's production line, they're probably going to be screwed at that point unless they bring their entire army back home to defend against it. But as is, Gosudark's army still fairly formidable. Upgrades are looking pretty good for a Protoss player. 3-3 completed at this point, but let's not forget the 3-3 for Terrans coming up here in a moment's time, paired with the fact that he will have some ghosts out for EMPs. So this does not get any easier for Gosudark, but he's not out of the game just yet. This actually, I just realized it's a Planetary Fortress. I think I brought attention to it before, but it's weird to see Planetary Fortress versus Protoss because, I don't know, like, Zealots are not Zerglings, right? Like, you watch a Planetary Fortress annihilate Zerglings and Broodlings. Oh my god, is he really going to drop? Okay, thank god he's doing it out here. I was going to say, if you boost this on top of, like, 1 cannon, both medevacs die before anything gets out, but sees no 4th base here because it's coming down to gold. He'll probably stim over towards the 3rd, and let's not forget, there's a big badass army hiding behind this Planetary Fortress. There's no real way for Gosudark to really cause any damage to Dashiz right now, not economically. But lucky for him, he doesn't have to play the economic game. He doesn't have to play the resource game. He's just trying to get to 200 so he can actually attack. Now, scary as the scary does, if Gosudark had Blink at this point, not only would he contend with chasing these medevacs down significantly more efficiently, he would also be able to deal with the Vikings a lot better, which have proven to be a problem for him in these past 2 games. Just side note, I wish I got Protoss players in the ladder who let my Vikings go wild. I feel like every player I play is like better than the people I cast sometimes, but only in like one respect. Gosudark though still holding very strong here. The Colossus are going to start melting some of the bio. EMPs go down on top of the Zealots, go on top of the Archon, but not on top. There we go. Now it lands on top of the Colossus. The Vikings are going to do what they can, but the Bioforce here might just be a little too low. However, double medevacs. He's going to unload. He's going to unload. He's going to unload. No, he's not going to unload. He's actually bringing those back home. That could be a problem. Does need to start unloading. Does unload on top of the cannon. Unfortunately, though, Zealots warped in should be able to deal with this. No, not even Zealots. Dark Templar. Ooh, that's going to be nasty. But the Planetary Fortress should hold for the time being. Dashiz just lost so much of his army, and that was a really good engagement for Gosudark, who, quite frankly, should not have been able to take an engagement like that. But a big part of that was these medevacs being distracted on the other side of the field, combined with the fact that he hit before the critical mass of Vikings was ready. You'll notice he's still producing 4 at a time, and he had just started reproducing 4 at a time. He put a lot of the gas and the money he had accrued over time into those ghosts, into the production of the ghosts. Now he doesn't have a whole lot of ghosts available. There's actually none. He lost all the ghosts in the last attack, so there's not going to be any EMPs for this. But I think his Bioforce, combined with his reinforcement, should be able to deal with this as long as he engages correctly. But that's not going to be easy. He does find the Colossus exposed in the back end, gets in there for a big slap and tickle, decides to stem away from this, trying to get away from the Colossus, but the Colossus needs something shooting them from behind. Here come the Vikings 4 at a time. The Stalkers do not have Blink. They can't just jump forward and pick the Vikings off, so a lot safer than they normally would be. We got Dashiz starting to push forward from the left end. He's got the production from the right side. One Colossus is about to go down. He lost one already, but the second one will not fall. Trying to split his forces, though. He picks off another Archon. We got Guardian Shields going down as well. The Colossus start falling, which means the production can potentially start dealing with this. Let's not forget, here come 2 ghosts, freshly baked, and some EMPs ready to go. But there's nothing to stop that Colossus just yet. And right now, Dashiz, I don't think he needed to tap out, but he did. A little too scared of that army supply deficit. GG is called, and Gosudark will take game number 2, evening up the series now 1-1. And as promised, guys, I'm going to go restart my StarCraft real quick. I have no idea what was going on with that game, seriously. Like, if I was lagging, it should have made me like lag stutter. I'm gonna draw back relogging. Don't start in 3 months. Help me, please. So let's just do this to be safe. Again, I've got no drop frames on OBS, so I don't know what could have been causing that. But assuming that StarCraft was the culprit, I've just closed it. We're gonna reopen it, and we'll get back on here in just a sec. I'm gonna take this time to go for a quick break, and we'll see you guys hopefully for game number 3 sooner than later. Sorry guys, getting on music. It's awkward for the commercial break, because just speaking with the admins. All right, we should be back from commercial break. Or we should be getting back from commercial break one way or the other. So, as an update for you guys, I asked the other casters and I asked the admin, like, you know, was I lagging for you guys? Was it causing lag to the game? Was this problematic? And everyone said they had no idea. One of the admins said that they had tuned into the stream and said it looked really weird to them as well. So, we're just going to count that as a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I've completely restarted StarCraft2 at this point. We should be good to go. We're hopping into map number 2, which is going to be Frost. Gosudark versus Dashiz, or sorry, map number 3, are now tied up 1-1 as we hop into the final match in this best of 3. Oh, I was about to start talking about link in the brackets in chat, but Harry Puns has already done it, guys. Exclamation mark brackets, exclamation mark Reddit, exclamation mark any command you think you might need to see what exactly is going on. But right now, again, the winner of this goes on to fight against Huck afterwards, guys. So stick around. One way or another, we get some good games coming forward. Game number 3 should be good nonetheless. We'll see you on Frost in a moment's time. Alright, welcome back to Copa America. This is game number 3 and the score is tied up now 1-1 between these two players. Doesn't get more down to the line than this. Spotting the top left corner of the map from Shot Esports since 2001 or 7, I don't know which it is. The light blue Protoss Gosudark. His opponent in the bottom left. He's red, he's Terran, it is Dashiz from Infinity Esports. So hang on, was that CM Storm and Cooler Master, I guess? So it's the same thing, really. No, I'm just kidding. Don't make fun of sponsors, Rifkin. This has been a pretty, you know what, a surprisingly back and forth series. Granted, this is a Grandmaster player coming up against a Master player. You probably wouldn't be able to tell which was which if I didn't tell you. And quite frankly, I've never heard of either of these guys. But I'm pleasantly surprised at the gameplay for both. Now, granted, we kind of had to really muscle through game number 2, and game 1 looked really one-sided, but with the way these guys have been trading out, the only thing I could really see making a great difference on this matchup would be if Gosudark actually went for Blink. And I'm not talking like a 2-base Blink all-in, I'm not talking like a 1-base Blink all-in, I just mean like Blink in general. Because there's so many instances where he gets engaged upon, and if you could just blink forward and focus down the Vikings, the Colossus, they would not struggle the way they have been, that's for certain. But at the same token, Dashiz hasn't been over-investing in Widow Mines. His drops last game were lackluster. No harass was done whatsoever. So, again, he still managed to take good fights, but more so at the fault of his opponent rather than to his own skill. Not to speak down to Dashiz, but I mean, that's the truth of it. Dashiz was making some awkward attacks, and Gosudark just kind of handled it quite nicely. Nothing too epic or crazy, but we may see something happen here. Frost is a fun map. This is actually one of the few times, though, where, as dirty as it makes me feel, 2-base Blink would be highly encouraged. For Gosudark, that is, of course, obviously as a Terran player, you can't blink. Maybe you blink your eyes, bat them really quick at the screen, but lame joke aside, Frost is just one of those maps. It's like Yonsu, it's like Polar Knight. Like, Yonsu and Polar Knight are out of the map pool, granted, guys, but if you can remember, like, that whole season, if you were a Terran player, you were probably blinked like 9 times out of 10 on the map. And it's not because Protoss were looking for a cheesy quick win, it's the strength of the map. And Polar Knight, or sorry, not Polar Knight, Frost is one of those maps. Now, granted, you don't have to blink. It's not the only way to win this game. But again, the thing that's really nice about 2-base blinks is because they're more aggressive than they are all in, you can actually reel off of it. Let's say, oh, you know what, Proxy Stargate? Yeah. I was getting really sad for Blink, but this can work out effectively as well. Dashiz did open with double barracks, but he did not take the gas to associate with them, so unless he puts a 3rd naked barracks down, he might not actually have the production to deal with this. What may end up happening over here, and what I think is probably going to happen, is we'll have Gosudark again pressure the front, maybe a Stalker, maybe 2 Stalkers, Mothership Core, and he'll try and keep a minimum of at least 3 or 4 Marines in this bunker, which means he's not going to have enough in the mineral lines to hold off the Oracle when it comes. The Stalker needs to make sure it doesn't take more than shield damage. Yeah, there we go. Finds the sweet spot to go for the supply depot building over there. That's a bit of a nuisance. That's a bit annoying, but as we see, the Stargate is on the way. And, okay, this sadly is classified as a bit more, it's so weird to consider this, but this is almost more all-in than like a 2-base blink. And a big part of this of why is because if it gets shut down, you lose so much early on, and you're not going to have anything to defend at home as a counterattack. So, like, let's say Dashiz holds off this Oracle like nobody's business. Doesn't even lose like a Marine, say. Let's say there's like a weird move command click that misclicks and ruins his day. Then Dashiz just moves across our counterattack and wants there to defend but one mothership core. Still at the front, though, this Stalker being a bit abusive. Again, the whole idea is like you want to draw the attention of your Terran opponent forward. You want them to be out here and out of position and not in the main. So for Gosudark, this is all going to plan. For Dashiz, you might be thinking, ha! I'm chasing the Stalker's back. I am winning. But look at the main, guys. He stopped production on one because he's getting a tech lab. It'll probably be a second tech lab on the other and a third reactor, if at all possible. Because, of course, Marauder is always better than Marines. But yeah, the Marines are not going to be the main in time to stop this. This Oracle's going to get at least 5 or 6 kills, I guarantee it. Goes for the Mule right away as well. That's going to sting just a bit. That's a lot of extra energy, a lot of extra minerals lost. And even if the Marines come in one at a time like this, you got to be so careful. So, Gosudark's going to get some real damage for this, but he needs to keep the Oracle alive. I've said it before, I'll say it 100 times more. Sometimes the threat of the Oracle is more potent than the Oracle itself. Forces out an engineering bay right away, and these Marines will not be moving across the map. That's the key thing. He can no longer, if he had killed the Oracle, he could move out right now and go for a counterattack. Try and force out that overcharge, maybe pick off some probes. But because the Oracle lived, he has to leave at least 6 Marines at home until the turret's done. So this living has bought Gosudark probably about like 3 or 4 minutes worth of time. Still in the front lines with the Stalkers being a huge nuisance. Dashiz felt the need and the necessity to scan behind this. He sees there's nothing at the natural right now, which is kind of good and kind of bad. On one hand, that means the army could be elsewhere, but on the other, it might mean there's no army at all in general. And a lot of this is because, well, you saw the Oracle, you know they don't have money to warp in 5 Stalkers back at home. Now, of course, the Oracle's banking on some energy, and even with the missile turret down, it can still get in here and deal some damage. One of the scariest things that could possibly get picked off right now is actually this tech lab. It's not even about the workers. If he loses stim pack, that is going to set him so far back. But extra gateways are being thrown down. He's got about 5 at the moment. This is definitely enough to break the bunker. The idea behind the force fields, behind the sentries, Guardian Shield is good, whatever, we can talk about that all day, but the reality is you're going to want a force field behind the bunker. Make sure the SVs cannot repair. As they retreat out of the natural base, yeah, there's nothing coming through here, so there's no void ray behind this. He's got a lot of damage here on the front lines, and this is gonna hurt Dashiz. But the scary thing is 5 gates. Again, there's a very fine line between aggression and all in, and a lot of this depends on how long Gosudark decides to sacrifice tech for. If he just has 2 or 3 warp ins, it's not all in, and he can back away with just dealing a bit of damage. Hell, he can recall out of there. But if he warps in too much, he dedicates too much, and he can't break this, and all Dashiz has to do is hold, quite frankly, he'll be good. But this bunker is going to go down right away. The force fields will play against the one Zealot available, but with all these ranged units, it's a non-issue. Gosudark brings the Oracle back to the front line. The Marines are just getting slaughtered here. The sentries are pushing way too hard. He can force field off that ramp. There we go. No more reinforcements coming from the main. The SCVs are going to die here. The mules are falling, and he pulls what he can out of here, but it's not going to be enough. Even on the top of the hill, he can't catch a break. GG is just going to be called. He knows he's been broken. Well played. And Gosudark, ladies and gentlemen, will continue in the brackets to go fight against Huck in a PvP.